So again, for what the week was, is you guys lead, and Mr. Holter, if you're in a place where you could take it away, let's do it.
I am. So thank you for the opportunity, everyone. Um, I think I'd like to, the topic for today I'd like to be is ego. And I'd like to kind of go along with the vulnerability topic that we've had this week. Because yesterday I was struggling with it. I really had a tough time. I woke up toxic. Pressures of life, we all have it, no matter what stage you're in. And um, I definitely want to share, but I want to give everybody a little background as well. So my name's David Holter. I grew up in Baltimore City, Maryland. I grew up in a humble upbringing, very diverse neighborhood. We were all just poor. It was awesome. We're all the same. So after that, I was very blessed to not go to Baltimore City schools because there were in the 80s and 90s there was already armed police officers and metal detectors in those. So it was very important to the family to be able to to give us a great education. After that, I went to college. I was very blessed, able to get financial aid. Then I got cancer and nearly died. Um, I rebounded, or as my mother would say, I was her phoenix, and I rose from the ashes and did exceptionally well in real estate and business and the hospitality industry. And boy, oh 07, oh 08, oh 09 punched me in the face like Mike Tyson. Took a incredible financial hit there, and said, you know what, let's continue to move on. So that was my second season, Phoenix Rising. So we all carry along with us tragedy. It's what forms us. But what we have to be aware of sometimes is the ego that becomes created because of your situations, whether it be your family, your culture, your upbringing. And when you can't identify it, or you allow the ego to completely overwhelm your thoughts and not be in the present, boy, it can become very self-destructive. So I'd like to give an example or the very specific example of what happened to me. I have a huge justice piece. I always want to include everyone. I always want to help. I have the heart of a servant. And I made a tragic mistake to help a friend out. And this has now led to a significant financial burden that I'm going to have to assume now. I've got, I've asked for help. I found the experts that can help me out, and I've tried to control my ego. But I woke up yesterday morning, and I was like, you know what? This just isn't fair. This little boy inside, this ego, I'm like, I'm going to email and text his friends and family and do all this. And I was just so super toxic. And on top of that, from a professional standpoint, I'm watching incompetent and people that have sort of in the corporate world some weight to their position because of various, whether it be sexual harassment or threats that they've made to the company, continue to get promoted. And I'm like, that's not fair. Why does this just keep on happening? And I had to take a time out. I truly had to look myself in the mirror and say, you know what? I've got to take a time out here. I've got to allow this ego that wants revenge and wants me to be in a pissy mood and force things upon others that is just not even necessary. But this wasn't easy. This is not my natural state to say, hold on, time out. What are we doing here? Why do I want to make this other person feel bad because they've hurt me? Why do I not want to see someone get elevated in their position? Because you know what, they're still a human being. They still have great qualities. And what I've identified over the years is, and I'm still working on it, is just knowing that, number one, I need to identify it. I need to control it. There's no good coming from that wasted energy. And the way my coping mechanism worked yesterday is I took a time out. I walked around the block and I said, what do I need to accomplish by any of these thoughts? What good is it doing me? The ultimate outcome for the financial burden that I'm dealing with is, however it lands, who cares? I have the best possible attorneys working on this, and I'll move forward, and I'll know that I got the best possible outcome for me. But by slandering and creating even more of a hubbub, that would create more stress in my world. Why? I don't need to see this person anymore. I don't need that. From a professional standpoint, who cares great. It actually creates more work for me, but why does it matter? Because what is my ultimate goal? My ultimate goal is a transition into real estate full time and to be back in the entrepreneurial mindset and being around incredible professionals, growth mindset people, such as on this call. So it's just fascinating how, the ego, the inner voice can just overwhelm you. And I had one other example to think about this. I think, sort of higher level and not specifically towards me. It's, when the term trying to keep up with the Joneses, or, I could do what Tom Brady, Serena Williams, Evander Holyfield did. I could do that. I played football in school or tennis at school, but no, you can't. And that's the ego. That's the thing that when you're able to identify that, you can become such an elevated person and so much more aware of where you are in the present and how to control your thoughts. So I kind of take a time out there and open it up to the floor for feedback or thoughts or criticism. I love feedback.
So I'll just start. First of all, again, thank you for sharing something like that, Dave, because again, that's never easy. And I remember when you were telling me about this and how challenging it was for you to kind of let go of the ego and just explain what was going on and put yourself in a position of actually being a human being, right? Like, oh, shit happens to me too. And I think that's it. It's really just about allowing ourselves to potentially, and whatever the whole story was that caused us to hold back in the first place, potentially be told we're an idiot, potentially be, whatever it is, like whatever we think is coming at us, it's okay. Because we just created this stupid story in our head to begin with. And when you told me, I never came at you the way that you were afraid of. And so that's the thing. It's like being able to accept the trials and tribulations of life. Hopefully you get away with a minimal amount of money that you actually have to pay because of this asshole. But every single thing is a freaking lesson, no matter what. And that's the thing. And the ego does get in the way, and it is all about a story. And it's the story that we're hoping that people don't see us a certain way that makes us feel super small, which we don't want to be, but we sure hope that the world doesn't acknowledge that we potentially could be, and maybe they're right. It's just this mishmash of nothingness. So facing it and rewriting it, but being able to accept it, right? Because that's what I'm hearing on this call is acceptance. And once you have acceptance, then you can move beyond, right? Because you've accepted the outcome, even though you don't know it. You're willing to take it on. And so that's what I heard, and I love it. So I'd love other feedback from what they heard out of Dave's story, because we all have our own stories. They're just with different examples, but of similar nature. So whoever wants to take it away from there, well, let's see what you got for David.
This is going to lead into mine tomorrow, so I guess I have to go back if they're uploaded, because I wasn't expecting to be here a week, but it's been awesome. My parents, that was my parents' little plug.
Katie, we're starting with a story and an excuse, right? Look at where you went with that. What we're asking right now is,
I'm just telling you why I haven't gone all week.
Oh no!
I'm not trying to make an excuse. And
we love you.
Sorry.
Let's put it this way.
I don't know where the other one. Okay, forget it. I won't talk to. I don't know where you've been earlier. So my topic for tomorrow, I need to.
Tomorrow's just going to be whatever topic you want to talk about. Right now, we just want to talk about what your thoughts are on what Dave had to share, and just.
That was my thought process. So this leads into what I'm going to talk about tomorrow. It's about letting it go and stuff. And so I think it's really important to have that acceptance first.
Yes.
Because it's really hard to do that, and it's hard to you feel like you're beating yourself up, and mentally, maybe physically too, and to have to do that and to accept all this shit that's happening to you and be able to process all that and move forward from it is really hard. So yeah, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah, no, and again, I wanted to make sure we were on track for that, because it's everything is just a story. Yesterday's call, we're going to upload it today. But it was a really interesting call from Aaron's not on the call today, but it was just about him focusing on one thing, and he was sharing, and then we explored what that one thing really was, and it was about his work and his work ethic and focus and everything that was happening. And we expanded on, if you just focus on one thing and you become an expert at it, how there's so much, kind of like the iceberg, right? You just see the tip of the iceberg over the ocean, but you have no idea how incredible the foundation of that iceberg is below the surface. And what I love is, again, everything does come with a story, right? And an ego. And so many of these things are tied to it. So I don't, again, I don't want to dominate this phone call with my thoughts and things like that. So Jermaine and Joe, I'd love to hear your feedback on what Dave had to say as well.
I have been where David was, where, you know, you feel like you're doing everything right, and then it seems like when you look around, everyone who's doing everything wrong is the one that's progressing and moving forward. The cool thing about what you said, Dave, is you were able to analyze what has transpired and so forth, and then, you know, you ultimately know it's about working on yourself and doing what you have to do. You have no control over everyone else's situation, and sometimes we look at things in a lens, and you know, we just look at the bad stuff with regards to other people. It's almost like a comment on a post that you may post or something like that. All this positive stuff, and then that one negative thing sticks out so much. And the reality is, you know, if you just focus on what you have to do, it was great that you were able to analyze and realize what it was that has transpired. You're able to be open and vulnerable about how you feel and being honest with us, because all that does is just make all of us seem normal again. And that was awesome. So I like that.
Thank you.
And that's what I love about the power of these calls, is that we recognize that, you know, yeah, Dave's going through it, but I'm going through something else, but it's also pretty heavy. And that's the interesting part, right? As we start to see how much is going on in everybody's life, then who are we? Who are we to think that we're all alone in all of this? So, Joe, you got any comments, or are you surrounded by your children? Are you able to talk?
No, I could talk. Yeah, I have to just like second what Jermaine said, you know, and like I've been there as well, but from the other side, it's like the opposite, where someone sees me that I'm winning, but they know because I'm extremely struggling. You know, last year I made a lot of money in a coaching business, and people are like, "Man, Joe, you're winning." And I got this celebrity image on this platform I started, and they're like, "Man, how do you do all this?" And what they didn't see is a nightmare I had, you know, trying to fulfill it, and it wasn't, you know, it wasn't fun. And so I just, you know, from the opposite side, sometimes if you feel like you're not winning in others, just know that, hey, they may not be winning in other aspects of life too. And I think it's just one of those things where you just have to keep moving forward. And one thing that I learned from Steven yesterday is you just have to turn on that abundant energy when you need to, and don't think about the negative. And Dave, I know you're going through something pretty insane right now, and I just want to commend you for showing up and sharing, because that's a mechanism to get through what you're going through. So I just want to commend you for sharing today.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, there's so many other levels and layers that you can take to it, and I think that was very impactful to say that there are both, you know, you can be on both ends of the spectrum. But you know, when that little voice comes out, it's like, well, what have you done to move forward? Are you being disciplined in your approach to the day? Are you being disciplined in the approach for your thoughts? Is your diet, is your mental well-being there to help you through that? And it's not a yes or no question, it's a self-reflective point to say, you know, why was I so off? Why did I just wake up so toxic? And, you know, I think number one is the awareness, the openness, and then leaning on people that can support you. You become the sum of the five you surround yourself with. So making sure that you have nothing but positive people that have the best interest for yourself. And then that you're also holding yourself accountable to the goals that you set. Because that's the only way you're going to get through it. When you bottle it up and boy, it never ever allows you to be the best possible version of yourself.
I love it. It's just true. But that's the other reason I wanted you guys to also lead this week, was because I didn't want to just be sharing the stories that everyone can relate to. I wanted everyone to see that everyone has a story that we can all relate to. And that's the beauty of it. And everybody stepping up as a leader gives us a different opportunity. So tomorrow we get to close it out with the fabulous Katie. And she's gonna share her stories. And again, they're gonna be different, but they're gonna be similar. Everything is just story.
Be on the car just like you.
What? You can be what?
I'll be in the car just like you are a lot of the time. Sorry about that. You guys are so awesome. I love it.
It's I don't know, man. When you know that you're surrounded by 7 or 8 or 9 billion people, I don't even know what's on this freaking planet anymore, and there just are universal truths. If you go into some remote jungle where the population that lives there has hardly ever seen any other human being in their life, if something funny is going on or they're happy, there will be a smile on their face. There are things that are absolutely universal. They don't have to be taught. But the problem is that because we have a consciousness and an awareness, everything starts to get layered in, and our mind wants to create this scenario. And that scenario typically is one of social media, right? It's all beautiful, right? But then there's all these cobwebs and pits and freaking traps and all this garbage and stories and protective nature and an unwillingness to express what's really going on. So we create an image, and it's we have all these opportunities to show the world something real, but more often than not, because we're so unready and we have such a poor, non-existent or weak foundation, that we're not ready to take it on the chin by saying that we messed up. And the truth is that everybody messes up, period. And the sooner we can acknowledge that and speak honestly about it and take the recourse that comes with it, which is what we don't want to do. It's easy to want to avoid pain being directed at you that you're responsible for, right? I understand that wholeheartedly. So it's if we break it down to the basics, man, we just want people to like us. We want to like ourselves. And then there's all these other stories about, do they like me enough? Did I do enough? Should I have said more? Should I have left earlier? Should I have come back? Should I blah, blah, blah? And we start doing that, and there are no freaking answers. So we drive ourselves mental. And so I love the way that you opened it up, Dave, because you just said, whatever happens, happens now. That's it. Once you accept that, then that's it. Then there's no more power over you from it. Right? Because now you stop creating stories. Now you're waiting for the actual real story to emerge. As opposed to, how many stories can I create in 2 minutes? And they get darker and deeper and more intense and more vivid. And then you start sweating, and then you get heart palpitations, and then you feel like shit. And it's like we literally took ourselves through an emotional roller coaster that was never even supposed to have had the play button start, but we couldn't resist. We just couldn't resist. And that is the tragedy of human nature if you let it run rampant. So we're here to change that bullshit, right? So I gotta fly. I got this thing in 10 minutes. Katie, you're gonna be our rock star tomorrow. Dave, I really appreciate the share and the comments from everyone. So thank you all.
Bye, everybody. See you tomorrow.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Yeah.
Bye, guys.